What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Clutch Talk, episode 12 today. Continuing our breakdown of every college football team this upcoming season as many as we can get through. And today we are going to be doing Arizona State and Michigan today. Arizona State, the Big 12 champions this past year, gave Texas a really good run for their money in the college football playoff last year. If Jordan Tyson doesn't go down, maybe they win that game and go to the semifinals. And then Michigan, who were the national champions 2023, a little bit of a down year in 2024. Offense was not good, but they got a new quarterback. Obviously, we'll talk about him. The defense still going to be really good over there. Schedule's workable for them. So that's that. If you're new to the channel and like the content, subscribe to the channel. On the road to try to get to 100 subscribers as fast as we possibly can. And yeah, let's get started. I know it's also 90% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed, so let's get that fixed. And we're going to get right into it today. We're going to start with Arizona State. Again, I talked about Arizona State and Big 12 champs. They lost Cam Scatterbo, which was a big part of their offense, but Sam Levitt's still back. If we look at Sam Levitt, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year. He's going to be the leader of that football team. He kind of took the lead as a team as the season progressed. He was a new starter, never been a starter before, transferred in last year from Michigan State, and really was a bright spot at that quarterback position, made a lot of good throws, big plays downfield, extremely good downfield thrower. And then he's got his big man back at wide receiver. Jordan Tyson had 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns last year. Probably a top 5 wide receiver in college football. Extremely elite hands, good separation, good pass catching ability on the 50-50 balls. Really, really good wide receiver, top 5 in college football. And then they return offensive tackle Max and Heanaker, 91% of the snaps. He had a B-plus grade last year, really good on the offensive line. He's kind of the only offensive lineman returning that got a lot of experience last year, so they're question mark at the offensive line. To replace Cam Scatterbo, though, they went into the portal from Army and got Kanye Udo, had 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns at Army last year. Really, really good running back. Used to getting a lot of carries, and I think that's going to be the theme this year. He's still going to get Cam Scatterbo carries, in my opinion. I think he's still going to get 20, 25 touches a game just because it's how much they value the run game. At Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham wants to be physical at the line of scrimmage and wants to run the football. So no matter who the running back is, they're going to get touches, and they got a really, really good one out of the portal in Kanye Udo. Jalen Moss is going to be that secondary wide receiver they got out of Fresno State at 582 yards last year. Good wide receiver, going to be stepping into that wide receiver 2 role. And then they got a transfer from Texas State. Jamito Ebigbo had played 2.4% of the snaps, but he had an A- grade when he played at offensive guard. So I think that's a big deal. I think he could be really good. They're also talking about a lineman from Ohio State that could get a lot of run as well at the tackle position, being that right tackle. But if we look at what they did last year, they took care of the football, really good at holding the turnovers. They were very explosive, a lot of big plays, and they were very run heavy. 59% of their plays were on the ground. I don't know if it's going to be that much this year because they were also trying to work Sam Levitt into the offense. They don't have to do that this year, in my opinion, because he's experienced, got a lot of reps now. I think they're going to be more to that like 54% run rate. I still think they're going to run the ball more than they throw it, but they're not going to have to rely on as much of the run game. And I don't think, as good as Kanye Udo is, I don't think he can beat Cam Scatterbo to where they're going to run the ball 59% of the time. So I expect that to go down, but I still think they're going to try to be physical, smash mouth football team at the same time. But they're also a very inexperienced offensive line. Like I said, Max Heanaker, to me, is the only experienced guy up front. So that's a concern, I think, early on. Like when they go on the road to Mississippi State and they go on the road to Baylor in 2 of the first 4 games of the season, that offensive line is going to get tested early. So I'm very interested to see how they counteract with that. But I think the question is can Udo fill in for Scat? That's the question. Is he didn't need to be 1,800 yards like Heisman contender like Cam Scatterbo was, but can he hit the 1,100 yards like he did last year in Army? If they do, I think that offense does not drop off at all because Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt are so good. And again, it also does depend a little bit on that offensive line and how they gel. Usually offensive lines is all about how they gel as a unit. So I think first couple weeks may be a little bit rough, but I think they're going to figure it out because Kenny Dillingham, when it comes to giving guys to buy into his program and buying into his system and how they want to do things. He's one of the best in the country at it. And I think no matter who the offensive line is in his tenure at Arizona State or who the running back is, they're going to buy into his system and be physical at the point of attack and run the football. We'll get into the numbers for them offense later, but now we'll transition to the defense. One of the biggest returners was Clayton Smith on the defensive edge. 6 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, 4 pass deflections, really good on the edge. Linebacker Keyshawn Elliott had 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, and a pass deflection last year, really good. And then corner Keith Abney, 9 pass deflections, 3 interceptions last year. Really good year at corner. He's a big return. The transfers they brought in, however, I think are really going to boost the secondary to hit the next level. Kendrick Breedlove from Purdue is a big one. 4 pass deflections, 3 interceptions. He's going to have a big role along with Nyland Green, also from Purdue. 2 sacks and 5 pass deflections. Again, he's more the nickelback, more the blitz corner. And then Adrian Wilson from Washington State, 3 tackles for loss, 3 pass deflections. That secondary got extremely revamped, and I think they're going to show big time this year because they were really good at stopping the run, really struggled to stop the pass at times. It showed even in that college football playoff game. Quinn Ewers had 322 yards, played really good that game, and that's how their season ended. So Kenny Dillingham's looking to revamp that. They struggled to get sacks, too, as well. They were good at stopping the run, struggled to get pressure on the quarterback, which led to their poor defensive success pass rate at 44%. So I think that's something that's also got to change. The defensive line was really good at stopping the run. They got to be able to get pressure on the quarterback, make the quarterbacks uncomfortable in the pocket, which I think will end up helping that passing game. But they have an experienced, improved defensive front this year, and they got a ton of returning production overall in that defense, particularly the defensive front. And the defense was really bad Kenny Dillingham's first year, got a lot better his second year, a huge jump last year. I think they're looking to take even a bigger step this year to be potentially the top defense in the Big 12. Because, again, Kenny Dillingham's personality is just physicality and toughness. And he wants to instill that at the defensive end, too, not just the offensive end. So third year under the system, I think they're looking for even bigger jump from year 2 to year 3 as much as it was from year 1 to year 2. And, again, the secondary is super, super deep. Transfers and returners, a very deep secondary, could be one of the best in the Big 12. So if you look at the numbers from last year, offensively wise, again, 20th in rushing, 20th in total, 30th in scoring, 18th on third down, really good. The passing numbers I expect to jump in just because, again, more experience from Sam Levitt, and I think they're going to lean a little bit more in the pass game than they had to last year. 118th in the red zone is not ideal. They got to be better in the red zone next year, in my opinion, if they want to find success. I mean, they weren't very good in the red zone against Texas. They weren't good on against Cincinnati or at Texas Tech when they lost. They got to be better in the red zone. 40th in sacks allowed. I'm curious to see how that number looks early on, especially when that offensive line's going. I think the at Baylor game is going to be a big test for that offensive line. Defensively, 21st in rushing, like I said, they were good against the run. 81st in passing and 87th in sacks. I think those have to go up. When you have an experienced group on the defensive front, you got to be good at getting pressure, and you got to get a lot of turnovers, and especially in that passing game. 81st in red zone, 37th in scoring, 30 in total. Total defense, scoring defense wasn't terrible numbers-wise, but they got to be a little bit better. So now if we look at these predictions, the worst I think Arizona State can do is 7-5. And I say that because I think they could lose at Baylor, they could lose at Utah, Texas Tech they could lose to, they could lose at Iowa State, and I think they could lose to TCU at home. That would put them at 5. That'd be Sam Levitt takes a step back. Let's say the run game can't be what it was last year. Let's see the offensive line ends up being a problem, makes Sam Levitt look worse than he actually is, and the defense doesn't improve. So 7-5 is the worst for me. The best, though, is 11-1 because the schedule, to me, they're going to be favored in a lot of games. The only games I think they'll be favored against Texas Tech. They'll be favored in every game except for me. I think the only two they may not be favored in is at Iowa State and at Utah. And I think they lose one of those 2 games, which would be the best. I shouldn't say I think they will. I think that's the best they can do. Most likely, I'm going to say 10-2. I don't think they can do worse than 10-2, in my opinion. I think this team is going to be really locked in this year. Kenny Dillingham's one of the best motivating coaches in college football. He's going to have that group ready to go, ready to run. I think, again, those 2 tough road games, like I said, could be the 2 losses. But I think they're going to be right back in the Big 12 championship picture. They're going to be right back in the college football playoff picture under Killian Dillingham this year with all they have returning, quarterback-wise, coordinator-wise, defensively. I like this Arizona State team this year, and I think 10-2 is the most likely and very possible scenario. All right, we're at the half point weight of the video. If you like the video, again, subscribe. And we're going to transition to the Michigan Wolverines. Lots of question marks around this Michigan team, but they went 8-5 last year, and they beat two really good teams in the area. Obviously, they beat Ohio State, the national champs. Didn't even throw for 100 passing yards. They beat Alabama in the bowl game. Didn't even throw for 100 passing yards. So very, very odd season. Could not score a point offensively. They got to be able to do that this year, I think. But I think it's going to be an improved group, and I'll show you why. If we look at the key returners from Michigan, offensive lineman Giovanni El-Hadi, 96% of the snaps in a B-plus grade. He was really good up front. Samaj Morgan's the leading receiver. Only had 139 yards last year, but that's not saying much considering the entire passing game outside of Colston Loveland couldn't do anything. But Samaj Morgan's going to be that projected receiver one. And then offensive tackle Evan Link had 87% of the snaps. He's one of the returning guys. But he only had a D grade last year. He wasn't very good, but he's a big returner, and they're expecting a lot out of him this year. Key transfers, I put quarterback Mikey Green as a key transfer. He had 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions last year at Fresno State because I'm still considering who I think Jerome Moore is going to start. A lot of people think it's going to end up being Bryce Underwood, and it may be Bryce Underwood. But right now, I'm going to lean that they're going to go Mikey Keene to start, and I think they're going to bring Bryce Underwood in later. Just because I don't think they're going to throw Bryce in the fire early, especially when you go on the road to Oklahoma. Now, if Mikey Keene can't do anything against Oklahoma, maybe that's when you go to Bryce Underwood. But I think right now they're going to go Mikey Keene, running back Justice Haynes, and running back O.J. Hester. They're going to be dual backs together in the backfield, mainly Justice Haynes from Alabama last year and then O.J. Hester from UMass. Last year they could not take care of the football. They had bad offensive line grades. They lacked explosiveness. They couldn't pass. They couldn't do anything last year on the offensive end. That's got to change. If you want to get Michigan's expectations or national championship expectations, in order to get that, you have to score points. And whoever the quarterback's got to be, they got to be better than what they were last year. If Bryce Underwood is a starter, he's got to prove something because there's also a lot of expectations on his shoulders. And if it's Mikey Keene, you just got to take care of the football and make plays when you need to. Offensive line depth is a concern for me. Just because outside of the people returning, there's not really a lot, and the transfers they brought in didn't really bring a lot. And also, they are lacking any experience at wide receiver. I don't think the receiver room is going to be any good this year. No matter who the quarterback is and how good the quarterback is, I'm just questioning these wide receivers. And like I said, I think Mikey Keene is going to be named the starter week 1, and I think Bryce Underwood's going to come in later. That's what I think about that offense. Looking at the defense now. We're going to look at the defense. TJ Guy's a big returner, 6 sacks last year on the edge. And then Zeke Borey, 9 pass deflections, 2 interceptions. And then J.R. Hill, 6 tackles for loss, 8 pass deflections, interception at corner as well. The key transfers, they got brought in one of the most underrated safety gets out of the portal, in my opinion, TJ Metcalf from Arkansas. 7 pass deflections, 3 interceptions. He was really good last year, especially to start the year. And then defensive tackle Trey Williams at Clemson, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. The defense is still going to be really good this year, in my opinion, if you're Michigan. They were great against the run last year, got a lot of pressure, good collective group. I think the front seven is still going to be really good. They lost Mason Graham, who obviously everyone knows was the anchor to that defense. But I think the corner duo of Zeke Borey and Jair Hill is going to be one of the best in the Big Ten Conference. I stand by that. Rob Moore and TJ Metcalf at safety, one of the best collective groups, I think, in college football as well. I think TJ Metcalf's going to make a lot of noise. He didn't get talked a lot about at Arkansas because Arkansas was really bad last year. Michigan, I think, could be really good this year, and I think TJ Metcalf's going to get a lot of attention from it. If we look at the numbers from last year, Michigan's offense was atrocious, like I said. I mean, 130th in passing, 73rd in rushing, 129th in total, 113th in scoring, 26 sacks allowed, 54th on third down, 65th in the red zone. Really bad. Defense, on the other hand, pretty good overall. 63rd passing's okay. I think they'll be better this year. 5th in rushing, I expect it to go down a little bit, but the defensive line's still going to be good. 10th in total, 19th in scoring, 18th in sacks, 87th on third down, 24th in the red zone. Good collective group last year. I expect the same this year from Michigan. But the offense has got to get better. Um, Again, like I said, Michigan has such high expectations their fans do for their team, and Stromore, there's all this backlash, and he was being suspended for 2 games this year. I think that you got to show some progress this year. If Bryce Hunter was a starter, you got to show, hey, with him at quarterback, we can make things work and we can win games. If they can't do that, the future of Michigan football gets a little bit more shady because they paid a lot of money for this kid to be quarterback and all that stuff. If he doesn't play well, or let's say the team doesn't play well and he's a quarterback behind it, question marks start getting raised at Michigan, and then things get downhill very quickly. So that's the way I look at that, especially offensively. But record-wise, I'm going to say the worst is 7-5, and that's like you lose at Oklahoma, lose at Nebraska, lose at USC, lose to Ohio State, and then you lose potentially to Washington or Wisconsin. That would be the offense didn't get better. Let's say Mikey Keene starts out horrendous. They bring in Bryce Underwood. He's even bad. Or, he's a freshman making mistakes. Let's say the run game didn't get better. The offensive line's terrible. I think the reason they would be 7-5 is the defense gets progressively worse. Because they went 8-5 with that bad of an offense. I don't think the offense can even possibly be that bad next year. So I think that'd be the defense dropping off where I see 7-5. The best though is 10-2. To me, it's you lose at Oklahoma and you lose to Ohio State. I don't think this Michigan team's early on is going to look that great, and I think that's why they lose to Oklahoma game 2. But I think if the best works out, let's say Bryce Underwood's a star, Mikey Keene does a really good job. I don't know who the quarterback is, and they just get really hot. I still don't think they can beat Ohio State, but I think 10-2 is the best scenario. I'm going to say most likely it's 9-30. I'm actually pretty high on this Michigan team this year overall. No matter who the quarterback is, I think they'll be improved from last year, which isn't saying much offensively. I think the defense is going to be similar numbers, maybe slightly worse, but similar numbers to last year. I think they lose to Oklahoma, Ohio State, and at USC. And I'm going to stand by that. I think 9-3 is the most likely, and that'd be a good year. But again, they do have to show something this year, in my opinion. If Bryce Underwood ends up playing, they have to show progress and that things are going to improve, and that with him at quarterback, they're going to be just fine. That's my opinion. But that'll also wrap up Michigan, and that'll wrap up our video. Continue to pump out as much content as I possibly can. My next video, I'm going to do LSU and Kansas State. LSU, extremely high expectations. This is a critical year for Brian Kelly at quarterback, in my opinion. He's got to do something with this group. This is arguably the most talented group he's had. I say that, but he had Jane Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas on his roster as well, Will Campbell and Emory Jones. But this is still extreme. This is probably a second most talented team. There's still a little bit of question on that offensive line, but we'll get into that. And then Kansas State, the most consistent team, it feels like, in college football. They win 9 games, it feels like, every year. Under Chris Kleiman, one of the most underrated coaches in college football. They got Avery Johnson, who's extremely dynamic, and we're getting into that. I'm also going to come out, I'm going to work my way up to top 10 quarterbacks. I think I'm going to start with top 10 offensive line video coming out soon as well, so be on the look for that. Go follow the Instagram. It's at Clutch Talk. If you want to go follow that, that'll be great. And yeah, hope y'all enjoyed the video. See y'all later.